going to start a Damascus billet, and I thought this would be a great time to go over step by step how I do this. So if you're looking to make a Damascus billet, you'll know what we're doing. I'm going to go through the steps, the way I work it, the way I prepare my metal, how I work the metal, things like that. That way, should you decide to take this up, you know what you're doing. You have a good foundation to build upon. So let's check this out. Starting out, I have 2 stacks of metal. One 1095, one 15 and 20. These billets aren't going to be very big. I have 5 pieces here and 5 pieces here for a total of 10 pieces. So what I'm going to do is clean the metal. I already took them to the belt grinder, cleaned them up, clean up the edges. That way there's no sharp edges that might make things sit uneven. Now I'm going to take each piece individually, put it in rubbing alcohol, clean it up a little bit, wipe any dirt, particulates off with a rag, lay them out, and then once I have them all washed, I'm going to take and set them up in my vise here, and then I'm going to use my welder and weld these together. So let's try this. Alright, so we have our 10 pieces of steel clean. Now we would stack them, get them ready to weld. First things first though, shop safety. We just dumped all of this in rubbing alcohol, and there's rubbing alcohol on the table. The jug's still here. We still have this container of it. You don't want to leave this sitting anywhere near your welding table. Obviously rubbing alcohol is extremely flammable. Don't do that. Alright, now with our clean steel, what we're going to do is stack it up. We're doing a stacked Damascus. So what that means is we're going to take one piece of one type of metal, put it in our vise, and then take another piece and just alternate our layers so we have them all in our vise. There's our 10 layers. Now I'm going to try to get them as even as I can here and close the vise. The piece of square tubing there is because there's a little divot in my vise that the pieces will fall into, so I just use that as kind of a spacer. Oh my. Alright, so we're tight, but we don't want to be totally tight because we gotta get these lined up. Try to make them as nice and even as possible. There. They're all nice and flush. Now we're ready to weld this. We're going to do 3 beads at the corners and down the middle. I'm using the Lincoln Power MIG that I set up. If you want to look at any welding videos, I have one up talking specifically about this machine and how well it works. But let's go ahead and weld this. Not the prettiest of welds, but they'll do. It's important to weld those corners. That's what you want to keep together when you start pressing on this. But now, real simple, we got this side welded up. Now we have to do the same on the other side. The last thing I'm going to do to this billet, now that I have it welded, is I'm going to weld a little piece of railroad spike onto it. That way I have something to grab with my tongs, just to make it a little easier to manage. have that welded together, we have our little tab on it. You can easily grab it, just like this, and have complete control of the billet. You can hear behind me the forge is going. So let's get it in the heat and start seeing what we can do. It should be a lot of fun. I like this part. That coal ironworks forge press I have does a phenomenal job when it comes to these things. I'm going to show you that. We'll cover it as we go. First, I'm going to put it in, heat it up a little bit till it's just a little red, and then I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to put borax, 20 mule borax on it, kind of use that as a flux. So, next step, moving on. Here's the billet. It's not all the way up to welding temperature. It's got that really nice, dull to just bright orange, just slightly bright orange. So at this point, this is where I'll take my borax, which I keep in a mason jar. I'm just going to go down the sides. You can see it melts as you add it. I'm pouring it onto cracks. Just to help keep some of that nasty air out of there. You can see what that borax does when it gets in contact with hot steel. So now we put it back in, we let it get up to forge welding temperature, and then we hit on it. Now, when we're doing this, a good forge welding temperature, it should look something like this. See how bright that is? How bright that billet is in there? That's a solid, good forge welding temperature. Now, we're gonna squish it. We're gonna squeeze it. We're gonna press on it until we make a diamond, if you will. For the next operation, we're gonna use the forge press. I'm gonna use the flattening dies to help push all of that straight down and compress it real nice and tight. This should help make those forge welds really stick. Check this out. I did a whole video on Coal Ironworks 12-ton forge press. Those are my flattening dies. Once that billet gets up to that good, can't stress that enough. You really want that first heat to be really high up there in that temperature range for forge welding. So, we'll let the billet get hot. We'll come over here and we'll do some work. Alright, so now all the hot work's done. We have a very beautiful, very solid 10-layer billet that is now about 8.5 inches long by about 1.5 inches wide. It's 3/4 of an inch thick. Get this close up to the camera for you all to see. Alright, there's our tab we welded on. to hold it by. I took it to a grinder just to clean it up a little bit on one side because this is going to be used for other projects. But there you go. You can see we have a 10-layer billet. Now with this billet, you can cut this, say in 2-inch sections or 3-inch sections, however you want to do it, break it up. But if you cut it in two at 8 inches long, 2-inch sections, you can stack it up. That's 4 layers. Well, then you have 4 times 10. That's 40 layers right off of this. So there are a lot of possibilities. But now that we have this billet made up, now the options are limitless. There are plenty of things we could do out there to make this into anything we want. So that's how you make an initial billet. You can do anything you want with this. I'll have future videos coming up where I do make this to a higher layer count. I have a project that I'm trying to get to 200 layers. So there's a lot more to come, but there's your initial Damascus billet. Hope you all enjoyed. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed it and want to see more. Thanks for hanging out with me, and remember, whiskey helps.